Hi, my name is Kelsey Terry, and I want to first of all welcome you back to the show. Hacking Autism is all about helping you to see autism as your unfair advantage. And so I'm going to systemically go across individuals that are on the spectrum and talk to them about how do they hack their autism. And today's no exception. I sit down with Daniel Jones. He's a YouTuber who uses his influence and his firsthand experience of life on the spectrum to help others. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Daniel. So Dan, today we're going to be talking about three different things. First, I want to talk to you about autism, the obvious topic, but then second, I want to talk to you about the evolution of social media in the context of autism. And then third, I've just got some really fun questions, some rapid fire to wrap up our time.
Cool. Okay, let's do it.
Awesome. And so with that, Dan, for those that don't know you, what do you do for a living and what keeps you busy?
What do I do for a living? Oh my goodness. Okay,
How would you define that? Yeah.
What is my job and what keeps me busy? Well, a bunch of things keep me busy, I guess. But my job is I'm a YouTuber or digital influencer. I don't. That should be an official title for this. It isn't at the moment.
Sure.
But it needs to be. But that's what I do. What keeps me busy is making content for my YouTube channel, my podcast, my Facebook page, my Instagram, my Twitter, my blog, and Alexa Skills and TikTok. You know, pretty much every single app you can think of that's creating content. I find that it's more than just a day job. It's a full-time, like, it's not even a job, you know, it's your life, and I love it. I love every single second of it.
Awesome. And so with that, do you identify, would you say that, do you like the term influencer? Would you say that you're more of a creator? Do people kind of squawk at that when you say, you know, I'm an influencer, I'm a full-time YouTuber?
I don't know, because like I would definitely say that I'm a YouTuber. I'm a full-time influencer because people get influence from my content, I guess, and people like, I don't know, they feel inspired by it, they feel motivated by my content. So I would say influence is a good term to use because it's exactly what I do. You know, I do influence content, I guess.
Awesome. So you were diagnosed in your mid-20s formally. Is that a fair summary or statement to say?
Yeah, definitely. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome just before the DSM changed the ruling.
Of course, yeah.
In 2013, ironically. And I think I was probably one of the last wave of people to actually have an Asperger's syndrome diagnosis, which is kind of interesting, you know, in some ways. But yeah, so I was diagnosed when I was 26, which is a super late diagnosis. Okay, it could be worse, it could be in my 60s, but I would say this is a late diagnosis. And because of that, it was kind of liberating at the time as well, because like, until that point, everything was a bit kind of, you know, you didn't know what was going on, you didn't know why you were this certain way, and people just, it was difficult. It was difficult.
And so, well, I was diagnosed at 15, and I initially thought, you know, oh no, I have this diagnosis. This is the worst thing ever. I don't want to have autism. And so it sounds like you, as a shift, were actually kind of relieved to have this framework to say, okay, well, if I have these are resources that I can seek out. And so you kind of went the opposite way.
Yeah, so it turns out for me, it was like kind of like all my childhood not really knowing, you know, what on earth was going on, and having like difficulties in school, in life, at home, friendships, relationships, all that kind of stuff. So for me, when I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, it was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what it is, and quite fascinating. I didn't know anything about it at the time, and so a lot of people may have like heard of like autism before they're even diagnosed because they may be researching it. But for me, it was kind of like, you know, knowing nothing and all of a sudden having this diagnosis, and this is what led to making my YouTube channel. This is why I did what I did.
Well, and I just want to say thank you for making that YouTube channel, because I sought to look to the internet, and I was frustrated by the books that were written by not Daniel Atwood, but David Atwood, I think is his name.
Yeah, David Atwood. Yeah.
Writing about autism from a very academic perspective of like, we have observed this in the children. And I love to see firsthand, okay, this is what it actually means for my life, and here's how I'm thinking about these things. Here's how I'm thinking about dating and jobs and college and all the different topics you've covered. I have really seen that as a resource. So I just want to say thank you for making all that stuff.
Well, you're more than welcome. I absolutely love the content I create, and so yeah, you're more than welcome.
Would you tell your younger self if you were 15 years old, knowing what you know now about life on the spectrum and leveraging your autism to become, a social media expert, whatnot? What would you tell your younger self?
Not to worry so much. I think I worried a lot when I was a kid, so I
Sure.
worried about I'm like a bit of a freak, and so I told myself not to worry and to always believe in it. I was always right with what I thought, like everything. Like I honestly, you won't believe me, but when I first started YouTube in like 2008, but I didn't believe in myself enough to carry on doing it. Honestly, I'll find videos, dig them out, and send them to you. But so if I'd just stuck at it, I'd been like so far ahead of the game now. You know what I mean?
Okay, so it would be relax, keep doing what you're doing, and trust yourself would be kind of
Absolutely.
the core takeaways of that.
Oh, 100%.
Now, are you a new father? Is that correct?
I am. Yeah, I just became a father last August.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have to ask you, I have a number of friends that have young children or infants, and when the kids start crying, how do you manage that when it comes to sensory overload in the context of autism, of loving on your child, being present, but then it also is that added complexity of being on the spectrum. So thoughts on that?
Oh, it's so difficult. I mean, I haven't perfected it yet. I mean, my child is 8 months old, and I'm nowhere near perfecting it. Like, it's so difficult. I mean, and this is something else. So I don't know what part this is. It's obviously related to sensory issues. But so when my kid is like screaming, and I'm trying to deal with his screaming, I get really hot. So his like irritation makes me hot, so then I have to like strip down into my like boxer shorts, like what the heck's going on? And it's so weird. It's like anger and heat all at once, and it's because I can't deal with the noise level, and it's almost like when he's crying, I can't think straight. I can't think of anything else. It completely just disables me. Yet I haven't figured out a hack. The only things I've done is played music. So what happens when I play music, and this is maybe it's a weird one, it's a personal one, but when I play music, he kind of gets chilled because he loves music, any kind of music. Normally like 90s and 80s pop, he loves it.
Okay.
So like I play music and he starts chilling out, but then obviously I'm chilling out because I can have music quite loud and it doesn't really annoy me. If I'm listening to music loud on my own, it's okay. But when I'm listening to music and somebody trying to talk, I just can't even, like, there has to be either one loud noise or none, but baby crying is crazy. So I figured out music is just the only hack really that I've currently used. But honestly, it's an ongoing evolution. Like, I had no idea.
Sure. Well, so I don't know if I'll have kids, but I've definitely thought out in my mind, when the crying starts, should I just put earmuffs on so that it brings at least the decibels down by 30 to just like bring it to a manageable level? Because crying is hard for any adult, when your child's in need and it's no fault of their own. And so anyways, I was just curious about how you manage that.
Well, it's a weird one as well, because like you want to, you're not thinking about anything, like how can I explain? When he's crying, I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta tend to this baby right now and figure out what's going on. And so the last thing you're thinking about is, hey, I've got to stop, go downstairs and get my ear defenders, put them in, come back upstairs. It's not like that, So
Correct.
Because it's like you have to think there and then, and it's super difficult. Usually though, my partner Naomi, she's so good. She's here usually all the time. There's only random times that she's not here with him, so she's usually good to, help him out when he's crying, because he's a bit of a mummy's boy, and she's like really good with him, and so she knows what to do. But she goes to the gym 3 times a week, so in the morning, so I got him trying to put him down for a nap.
Sure.
And we had one crazy time about a week ago, but I don't think he was well, so he kind of made it worse. But I don't know, I think it's just learning to understand your kid as well and understand why they're crying. I think that's you've got to just do the checks, and there's like a fail-safe thing as well as you go through the list, like nappy, no, teething, no, hungry, no, sleepy, yeah, okay. So, and then you set in stone those things that you get them to go to sleep with, and that kind of helps. So it's just knowing your kid at the end of the day.
Sure. Well, and so that brings me to my next question. You have been with is it Naomi? Is that your partner's name?
That's right. Yeah.
And you've been with her for a number of years?
Yeah. So, it will be 10 years at the end of this year, I think.
Awesome. Congratulations. And
Thank
so,
you very much.
what would you recommend as tips for those that want to be in long-standing relationships? You know, again, being on the spectrum, right? There's the component of just how do you love each other well, period, and then how do you add the complexity of life on the spectrum?
It is really difficult. I mean, I've had like two serious girlfriends in my life, or partners, and it, they didn't. The other ones didn't obviously end well. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be with Naomi for 10 years. And it was because you have to be, and this is something I feel like you have to be a certain type of person to get along with somebody on the spectrum,
Sure.
because of the demanding nature of the type of personality, and that's a good thing. But you just have to be, you have to find the person who's understanding. Communication is key, and finding ways to communicate. So, we spent years just shouting at each other, not knowing what was going on when we were having, rows or whatever, because everybody argues and rows. I mean, that's just human nature.
Agreed.
I argue with my dog and he doesn't even speak English. So,
Yep.
people row about anything all the time because you're going to upset people, especially if you're in close proximity. The difference is, how do you manage those, how do you manage the difficulties? Well, normally people just kind of, I don't know what people's mechanisms are. So what we do is 100% honest. I'm always honest about what's going on. So I have to just say like, this is this and this, even if it just sounds quite, blunt. I don't really have a filter. So she knows exactly where I'm coming from.
Sure.
And then I think this is the biggest one. This is the biggest tip, is complete time out. Like when someone's trying to tell me something or talk to me about something, it's quite, socially demanding. It's difficult to understand the flow of what they're saying. If it's not academic, in its procedure, I have an issue trying to figure out what's going on. So, when we're having a discussion, a heated discussion, I can't understand what is going on, and then it just kind of snowballs out of control because I have no idea what the heck is going on. So we just go, okay, this clearly isn't working. Let's chill for 2 hours, come back when we're relaxed, and then give it to me in a format that you think I can understand. And that's it. So it's more challenging for my partner, I think. And it's down to the partners of the people of, who are dating someone on the spectrum, that they have to find out how to communicate with them the best way. Because, we do, we communicate typically, as anybody else would, you get around your day, you do stuff. But when there's like specific issues, I think like, learning how to talk to somebody to digest protocol is definitely something that is, you have to kind of like, you have to learn over a number of years. But I'm lucky, as Naomi has a degree in childhood studies and childhood development specifically in autism. So she her dissertation is all about development of autism, how you communicate with kids on the spectrum. So she's got such a background in it that she's just able to absolutely, she nails all the communication parts, obviously, but she's human at the end of the day, so she's not always going to be really calm and collected when we're at a heated discussion.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you've found yourself an expert. That's pretty amazing. And wow.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
So I've been married for 7 years, and something that we talk a lot about is managing meltdowns in the context of marriage, and how do you not meltdown in a good way. I guess that's maybe what I'm trying to say is, because I know when I'm overstimulated and sometimes when the environment can cue that behavior, that action, and so I'll try to remove myself. But just thoughts on meltdowns in the context of marriage.
Well, I feel like, meltdowns, we do a lot of prep work for meltdowns. So
Sure.
You have to know your triggers. Like, okay, so we don't have onions or garlic in our house anyway. So onions and garlic are huge triggers for me. I can't be around onions, can't be around people who are eating onions, can't be around garlic, can't be around people who are eating garlic. But it's a whole different context if it's cooked in food. So we have pasta sauce. It's got, it's cooked and it's like a tomato-based sauce that has garlic in it, because all garlic and onion is like basis of most sauces and gravies. And that's okay. Weird, right? But to me, it's situational, and it must be situational because I don't know why, but because those smells make me really uncomfortable. So when we go to the store to buy groceries and stuff, Noe's it happened the other day. We were going to the grocery store and we're going around past the bread aisle, and then Noe's oh, we have to go down this side of the shop now because we're going to pass the deli counter if we stay here, and we know what happens when we go past the deli counter. They've got fresh garlic and onion chopped up ready to serve. So I'm just oh my goodness. So I avoid that side like the plague. So it's things like that that we've made a list of like, okay, Dan gets triggered with these, and pretty much anything triggers me. No, but you know, like I get triggered by a lot of things, and then so Naomi knows the list. So she says it's all about preventing a meltdown, and so but dealing with it. I mean, oh my God, she's been through, like, saw me through the worst meltdowns, like broken my hands and like just crazy stuff. So I think she's really good at keeping her cool now as well, because I guess like meltdowns happen when I'm panicking as well. I'm like freaking out about something. If she starts panicking about it, like, oh no, don't start, because obviously it must be distressing for the other person to see. They can get triggered as well, and then it's just a big mess. So I think one of the key tips is the other person to just stay completely calm, and then they can control that situation, because it's all about control. Once you're in a meltdown, you've lost control. So if the other person has the control, then you can bring you back around.
Sure. No, that's great advice. So I'm curious, as you've been in the spotlight when it comes to autism, and you've been invited to speak at various events, I'm curious, how have you seen the conversation evolve, just even in the last 5 years, around autism? Do the questions that people ask you, do they ask you different questions, or is it always the same set? Has that changed over time?
I don't know. I mean, like, the questions, the early types of questions you get, how does that feel? How do you feel about that? That was a really weird question. How do you feel about being on the spectrum? It's like, well, I don't know, just life, isn't it, for me? But
sure, it's me.
Now, but now it's become more of and it's quite weird. People demand a lot from you especially when you're an influencer with, like, when you're doing something like this, advocacy. People demand that you speak to them and tell them everything and give them all the answers. I don't have all the answers. And one of the biggest questions I get every single day, I'll open up one of my social media platforms or my email account, and I'll get how do I tell my family? How do I tell my partner? How do I tell my boyfriend that I'm on the spectrum? How do I tell my friends without them judging me? That is the biggest question I get asked. Honestly, if I could, like, monetize the answer to that question, I'd be a millionaire, because that is the most asked question. And I honestly don't know how. I always say, look, guys, the only thing you can do is be honest, because the only thing you can't improve upon is the truth. So if you're honest about what you do, there's no improving on it. You just say it as it is, and if they don't like it, they don't understand it, and it's not your issue. And so it's a very difficult one to say, because people already know this answer. They just don't want to admit it, I guess. They need someone else to just tell them that's what it is. You have to just tell them if you want to tell them, and don't if you don't.
Yeah, and my comment on that would be, you need to have your safe people. You need to establish, like, who is a safe person in your life, and if they're safe, they should be trustworthy to share your quote-unquote secret with, to share your autism with. So Naomi's that person for you, and if they're safe and trustworthy, they're worthy of knowing about your diagnosis. If they're not, then I don't think you don't have to tell them.
Yeah, definitely. And then another thing I can add to this as well, some people say, like, I need to tell my friends that I've got autism, but I think they're going to make fun of me, or and I'm like, well, if they're going to make fun of you, they're not friends. You need to get shot of those people. So you are right. It's about picking the right people around you and determining who is, evidently the nice and kind and trustworthy people that you can confide in. And I guess those people are the people who won't judge you and are not going to make fun of you. And that's very simply put, really.
What would you be doing if you were not a full-time creator? If the internet blew up and you had to just go home, what would Dan be doing if YouTube was not available and Instagram wasn't a thing? Would you be a chemist? Would you be a rocker?
I don't know. I mean, I've done, but I am all of those things, So like, and this is interesting. I've always been fascinated in creating stuff. Like, so when I was a kid, I used to like engineer like things, like electronic things. I'd take like walkie-talkies apart and then like add different aerials to them, expand the range, and like then I was really into like CB radios and building aerials and like playing about with it, and that stuff like that fascinated me. So when I got my hands on a computer, I was able to kind of been creating content for years and making music videos and creating small entertainment videos. So I don't know, maybe I'd probably end up on TV, because I've done a lot before with TV. I've been with the BBC, I've done stuff with MTV. I do some extra work every now and then, or support and acting work. I did some quite recently on some big shows. I was supposed to be in the Watchmen TV show that's coming out soon. So I was going to do that, but then I couldn't because I was busy with YouTube and stuff. So I guess probably I'd end up on TV or entertaining somewhere, because I just love creating content data. Like I don't know, it's bizarre. I just love it.
And so, how did you know you were ready or in a place to take the leap to be a full-time creator? Was it a certain sub count? Was it a number of speaking engagements, partnerships? How did you justify that or like take that leap?
Do you know what's quite funny actually? Like I've never been asked this question ever before, and then
well, I'm proud of myself.
Tuesday, honestly, until this week on Tuesday, I was doing a presentation. I was talking at a marketing agency about marketing for video optimization, social media optimization, and SEO for social media and video on YouTube. And because I'm becoming quite a guru in this area, I was invited to talk to this marketing agency because I'm going to set up a consultancy soon, doing this as a side hustle. So,
awesome.
and I asked the questions, and the first question they asked me was this exact question. Now, I'll give you a bit of context to this. When I first decided to take YouTube seriously, I was invited to Manchester to a YouTube creator session where I got to talk and hang out with some creators who were on the rise. One of them was Supersaf TV. You probably heard of him. He's huge. And then there was a bunch of other guys there, but Supersaf was probably the one who's really kind of gone huge right now. And there's another guy called Andy Guitars, and he's like the biggest guitar tutorialist on the YouTube. He's like got a beard. He's a cool guy. He's from like the UK. Anyway, so I spoke to these two dudes, and they said, "Oh, when you hit 100,000 subscribers and you quit your day job." Now, that I was always like, "Oh, I gotta get 100,000 and quit my day job."
Sure.
I quit my day job when I hit 50,000 or 40,000 subscribers. Between 40 and 50,000 subscribers, I quit my day job. Now, let's put it this way: YouTube ad revenue, it's about 20% of your income, and then about 70% of it is like advertisers who sponsor videos, and then the rest is just kind of random things like merchandising and I don't know, speaking engagements and stuff like that. So the question is not at what level can you take it full time. The question is how quickly can you start monetizing yourself as a personal brand. So it's nothing to do with YouTube count, subscriber count. If you have an audience, you can have 1,000. Look, put it this way, put it in some perspective. A guy I know who runs another channel called Video Creators. He was running a channel at 10,000 subscribers, and I know a guy who was running a channel at 100,000 subscribers. The 100,000 subscriber channel was earning maybe $1,000 a year from YouTube. The guy who was running a 10,000 subscriber channel was earning over $1 million a year. So it's how you can monetize, and if you have value, and this is all about value. So for me, it was when is the right time to do it. So for me, it was more like, okay, when do I have the support from my community that they will watch those videos, that they will buy that merchandise to support this channel, they will support me on Patreon. And I am at a level where I'm comfortable enough to work with brands that I think will benefit my audience, and that's what I do now. So, it's super hard work. Like, it's super hard work. But I would say it's just you gotta think like you're running a tiny business, a global tiny business. How weird is that? But that's how you gotta think.
Now, with social media and just content creation being a full-time role of yours, where do you think the autism community is most vibrant or represented? Is it Twitter? Is it more Instagram? Is it more YouTube? Where are you, or even Twitch? Just thoughts on where do you see the most chatter from your vantage point?
I see the most... Okay, I will call it attention, because attention is the correct terminology to use for this type of thing. Sure. So where is the most attention for this content topic? I would say in order of... so there's... it's really difficult because there's two camps. There is people who are supporting autism and raising awareness, who have non-judgmental, charitable hearts. And they don't care about Autism Speaks. They don't care about anything else. They just want to, get on and help people. They have no vendetta against any company. And that is a huge chunk of people. Those people, the mums, the dads, the teachers, the average Joe who just wants to donate and help people out, who has no kind of crazy obsession with some conspiracy about some charity, they all hang out on Facebook, okay? So they're on Facebook, and they're a huge part on Facebook. Then you have the exact flip side of that. And the flip side, who are obsessed with terminology, definition. This charity's done one some bad thing in the future, in the past. They're horrible. We dislike the puzzle piece, and it has to be light and red, no blue. Those people live on Twitter in a massive way, so they're very segregated. But the mums and the dads and the typical charity people, they don't hang out on Twitter. But the militant, neurodiverse, people, they hang out on Twitter, and they breed on Twitter. So, but for me, if you're middle of the road like I am, and you just want to just do the best for everyone, and everyone's included, YouTube and Instagram, straight up, 100%.
Okay.
But even more so now, we're pitching into the podcasting. Like, even now, look, we're on a podcast, but that is becoming huge. I get like emails of people saying, "I found you on Spotify or iTunes. Love the podcast. Like, it's great. Blah blah blah." And that's becoming huge now. My podcast, it just rapidly increased with like popularity. As soon as I uploaded, like, it was crazy. I don't even publish. Like, you must see my content. I never really promote my podcast. I might put a tweet out saying there's a new episode out, but I'm not like hard at it like I am with YouTube videos. I don't do any backlinking. Yet my podcast has thousands and thousands of retention minutes. It's crazy.
Sure. Well, and I think what is powerful about podcasting is it allows your audience to engage with what you have to say, but empowers them to vacuum the house or to mow the lawn at the same time. And so they can consume passively and enjoy that.
Definitely, especially educational or informative content. You're able to digest and download that content, but passively, so you can actually do two jobs at once, which is exactly where, everybody wants to be, because we're in this like fast-paced society.
Sure. Okay, so now I'm going to pivot to some fun questions.
Cool.
My husband has asked me to post these to you.
Sure.
As a lover of Star Wars,
Yeah.
what compelled you to write a book on the Jedi religion, the Church of the Jedi, that mindset? I mean, so a lot of people love Star Wars, but why a book, or what took you there?
It was a long progression, actually. I decided I loved Star Wars for the simple fact that it gave like a spiritual philosophy for the average Joe. And I love that, because I feel like spirituality is lost within people. Because when you say spirituality to people, or spiritual, people think like just they're crazy like a Scientologist, or like you're really into like Christianity and stuff, right? And both of those are fine. I mean, you can do what you want. I don't care. But I feel like there's a middle of the road where people lose sight of being like spiritual and humble. And so I was like, Star Wars has got those answers for that. So I decided to set up the Church of Jediism. It's not like a church, it's not a religious body kind of thing. It's just more of the social fan club of spiritual philosophy based on Star Wars. So I set that up in 2007 and started writing blog posts and websites and stuff. And I was approached by HarperCollins back then. They phoned me from New York, like, "Hey, it's HarperCollins, you want to do a book and all this stuff?" And I was,
Wow.
I'm not a writer. There's no way on earth I could ever do writing. And I was like, okay, look, it's never going to happen. So 10 years went by.
Wow.
and I was on a podcast with a woman called Teresa Chung, who is a very famous spiritual writer, and she wanted to interview me because she'd heard about the work I'd done with setting up a Star Wars philosophy based philosophy and religious context and blah blah blah. And so she said, "Hey, what about doing a book? Have you ever done a book?" I said, "I've never done a book before," and then I told her the story I just told you. And then she said, "Well, I'll help you write it, because I'm a ghostwriter, because I got dyslexia as well. There's no way on earth I'm going to be able to write a book." So she said, "I can help you write it, and we can pitch it to publishers." I was like, "Okay, cool." So we wrote a proposal straight away, just put the proposal out to a few publishers. We had loads of people wanted to, so we took the best publishing deal and just said, okay, we'll run with it. And it was Watkins Media, which is the oldest bookstore, or the oldest esoteric bookstore in the world probably, and it's in London. Like Aleister Crowley used to go to get his books and stuff, which is crazy. So they own a book publishing company called Watkins Media, and they put the book out, and that was just, it was a crazy ride, like having a book out, and it got to #1 in the Amazon US and Amazon UK. Like, it got a bestseller. It's in 3 languages. It's an audio book read out by the guy who plays Reagan in the Gotham TV show, and it was just, what a ride that was, and I loved every second of it. But this may interest you a bit more. Like, I'm actually writing a book right now on Asperger's syndrome, autism, life hacks, tips and tricks, relationship, dealing with stuff day to day, and that is going to be out probably by the end of this year. But it's specifically for the YouTube crowd, like everybody who's like a fan of mine. It's specifically tailored towards them, because all the questions I've had I'm putting into that book as well. So, but books are great. If anyone wants to write a book, go out and do it, and just pitch and pitch and pitch.
Awesome. Okay. And do you believe Darth Vader was the chosen one or not?
He did fulfill a prophecy, so I would say yes.
Okay. Favorite character in Star Wars?
Ben Kenobi, amazing.
Okay, respect. And I've seen the Funko toys in your office.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
Do you pull them out, or are you a box person? Do you keep them in the box?
I'm a box person. I know you have them
That's
out there,
fine.
but
That's fine.
we do have one out. We have Joey from Friends, who's upstairs on the TV set, because we have a very small TV set. We don't use TV a lot, but when we do watch TV, we like to watch things that we specifically. We don't watch like terrestrial or cable. We don't have anything like that, or satellite. We just like watch Netflix or whatever. Mainly YouTube, because YOLO, millennials and all that. But we have Joey from Friends is the only guy who's out of the box. But all the other ones are strictly in boxes. And I'll tell you why. Actually, I bought. I for £10, which is about $12 to $15, I bought Mayor of Halloween Town, which is a pop vinyl from the Nightmare Before Christmas, and I bought him for £10 from a woman who was selling it, and she was like, "Yeah, here you go, here's £10," and I kept him in his box, and I sat on it for a couple of weeks, and then I went on eBay, and I realized there was only 3 in the world for sale. In the entire world, I had one of them, so I decided to put it on eBay, and I got £275 for that one pop vinyl figure, which paid for my washing machine actually. When I first moved into this house, and that was just amazing. So I didn't really like Nightmare Before Christmas that much. I mean, it's cool, but this is why I keep them in the boxes, because if I didn't have the box, then it wouldn't have had that value, So it's always worth keeping the box, even if you don't have them in it.
Sure. No, I respect that. I find that, I mean, these are my 2 favorite. I've got the Hulk and I've got Lagatha from Vikings, but I keep them out because they remind me of my choice. Do I want to Hulk out, have a meltdown, or do I want to act valiantly like Lagatha?
That
so
is
for
brilliant.
me, their visual cues of like, Kelsey, who are you going to be today? Hulk, Lagatha.
Well, I have the Bodhisattva, because I'm a big Buddhist, obviously, and I do yoga and stuff, and I have Buddha. He's sat on my windowsill looking at me now, and he just looks at me all day long, and I'm like, okay, I gotta be good. I gotta be like the Buddha. I gotta think wise and think straight and clear my head, and
Sure.
I love it.
How many Funko toys do you have, or Funko Pop figures?
Oh my goodness. Funko toys in general, because not the pops. I actually have a collection of Fight Club action figures who were made by Funko, and I also started the Stranger Things ones as well, and they're made by Funko. Funko altogether, I don't know. There's maybe 50 or so, but I've got rid of a bunch of them because, well, I actually haven't. I moved them because I didn't want them all on there, and I realized that it became a bit of an obsession that I wasn't really into anymore. So I decided to downgrade some of them, and now on my display behind me in the office, as you've seen in like the conspiracy video and stuff I did, I actually have a pop vinyl myself. Have you seen this before?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna get it because it's just in arm's reach. Give me 1 second.
Did someone make it for you?
Yeah, there's like an official like Funko Pop custom designer. So this is the Aspie World pop vinyl.
Cool. Wow.
So
a box within a box.
Yeah, so it's
very
just
fun.
This is
With
like a
blue
plastic
hair and everything.
case. Yeah, I got the blue hair when I had blue hair and my beard and cool stuff and like super hipster. I love it. But this is probably my favorite pop vinyl. So Katie's Craft with K. Okay. So K for craft. So I got the back there. Katie's Craft. She's awesome. She actually makes it. She actually sells these as well. So she actually has them. So a bunch of my fans were like, I want to buy an Aspie World pop. And so you can't actually buy it, but she custom made them. It's awesome.
Okay. Do you ever get tired of talking about your autism or autism as a whole? Do you just ever want to be Dan, like a guy living his life in Wales?
There's 2 questions there. Do I ever want to be Dan, just living my life in Wales? No, because like I cannot sit still, and probably ADHD in me as well. I have to be doing something, and I'm always like I always felt like I needed to be doing something great, right? And I'm not saying like becoming the next prime minister or whatever, but I need to be doing something great. Like if it's helping somebody, or if it's doing something, just being in that public. I don't know why, I was just drawn to it like a magnet to do something quite big and on a popular scale. I've always had this like weird feeling, and I just drawn to it. So I would never ever just be down just chilling in Wales. But in terms of like, do I ever get bored of talking about autism? I don't get bored of talking about autism and stuff. I love creating content. I'm passionate about it, but I feel like I'd love to talk about all the other things I'm obsessed with. Like I love like UFO conspiracy theories. I'm obsessed with like the 9/11 conspiracy theory stuff. I know it sounds a bit weird and morbid, isn't it? And people
my husband's also obsessed.
Oh yeah, and like and SEO marketing, and I just and social media. I'm absolutely in love with social media. I just find it phenomenal. People always give it a bad name, like Facebook, put down your phones and stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, And so anyway, I don't know. I could never just be done. I love it. I never get bored. Never get bored.
Okay. Well, would you ever do SEO content on the Aspie World channel, or would you ever do spin-off content like about those things you just talked about?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I told you I was doing a presentation talking in that marketing company on Tuesday. So I actually filmed that for the vlog, obviously making content, and I recorded it for a podcast. So I'm releasing a podcast on SEO marketing for social media, and I'm also uploading that video to YouTube on the Aspie World channel as a vlog. But what I'm also going to be doing is if I get feedback, people like that information, because people who watch my channel, I would say a good 20% of those are starting their own YouTube channels, all running social media influencer stuff. So maybe they want to digest that content in a more like detailed sphere. So I'm going to actually start another channel as soon as this one reaches 100,000. The Aspie World, once the Aspie World hits 100,000, which is on track for July, the early July. Once that's 100,000, I'll start another channel as well as Aspie World. I'm not going to leave it. I'm just saying I'm going to start another channel, and they're going to build that one up to 100,000 as well, because I believe I want to just put everything I know from the start. Because if I knew what I know now when I first started the Aspie World, we'd be on 1 million right now. But I needed to, there's loads of things. So I want to test this out, and what better way to test out than educating people with the journey? And so I think that's going to be cool. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, favorite candy.
I don't really.
What do you buy most often? Maybe, or like what's most often?
Okay, so
do you have three? One or three?
I'll tell you what. So in Britain we call them sweets, and sweets cover anything that's like a naughty snack food. So top of Doritos straight away, like chili heatwave Doritos, like amazing, but they're full of MSG and it makes me super wound up. The other one is, I haven't had this for 10 years, but Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew. I love Coca-Cola and Mountain Dew, but I haven't had it for 10 years because I don't drink caffeine anymore. So, and then the third one, I'm not so much into it now because I had to calm down, but I love Twinkies, and I stopped eating Twinkies because they're really bad for me, and like they were making me like way more hyperactive than I needed to be. So I stopped eating them, and now I'm not really bothered about them. But they used to be like, it was like straight at the top there. But like potato chips, like Doritos are like the pinnacle of awesome. I could just sit down and just destroy Doritos all day.
I understand. For me, it's Cooler Ranch. I don't know if you guys have that in the UK.
Yeah, so it's called Cool Original here. It's not called Ranch here. That is an amazing flavor, and it doesn't need dip, that one either.
No, it doesn't. But let me tell you, you could clear a room with your breath after you eat.
You could, because you just smell like you've just eaten like a whole loaf of garlic bread. Because like it's like that. Yeah, and see, this is weird, isn't it? Like I love Doritos, and I love. I also love wasabi peas, which are super hot and they kind of a bit garlicky tasting. Great, but I can't be in a room when someone's eating garlic bread. What on earth? We go to pizzerias. I stand outside because I'm like, I can't be in there. That's just what on earth.
Sure, it's just triggers.
Yeah.
Favorite place to visit?
San Francisco, California.
Favorite musician? Who are you listening to most right now on Spotify or YouTube? Wow. In terms of music.
My favorite musician is probably Mark Hoppus from Blink-182, but I listen mostly to God, who am I listening to mostly? I'm listening to Owl City a lot, and Tycho. They're like an electric band from San Francisco, and even though I'm like really into punk rock music, like I love punk skate music, but I also really like electric kind of pop. I don't know why.
Okay, I think Owl City, the lead singer, is from a small town in Minnesota where I live, and so it's kind of a fun connection.
Yeah, his name is Adam Young, and he's also on the spectrum. Yeah, you know that.
I did not know that, but I will definitely take note of that because
so he has Asperger's syndrome. But he's a very religious guy as well. I think he's within that like religious community where he lives. But so I think he did an interview when he was talking about autism or Asperger's syndrome. But he also did a song with Mark Hoppus. Ironically, he did a song with Mark Hoppus on his album. He did the same song with Carly Rae Jepsen on. It's Always a Good Time or whatever. So, but I'll say, he's amazing. He actually also has a bunch of other pseudonyms that he makes music under, like Sky Sailing, and there's a bunch of others that it's amazing. He's music everywhere. You wouldn't even know it. Honestly, he's just hidden everywhere.
Interesting. Okay, well, you've given me something to chase down. Mac or PC?
Mac always. Don't talk about PCs because they break and they're terrible.
Okay, Canon, Sony, or Nikon?
Canon always. What on earth are you doing? If you're not filming on a Canon, then you need to really go back to school.
Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat?
Peter McKinnon every single day.
Okay, Benji or Sean?
From Video Influencers?
Yeah, if you had to pick one.
My...
I mean, maybe you can choose not to choose as well.
Well, no, I text Benji on a par daily basis, so I say Benji.
Okay, and let's see. What is something you once believed to be true and time proved otherwise? And that could be, it could be many things, but what first comes to mind?
That I believe that everybody at 18 and over had their together, and they don't.
Sure. And then lastly, how can listeners hearing this conversation, how can they support you? How can they find you? What are you up to?
Oh my goodness. You can find me on every single social media platform you can think of. Like literally, if there's a social media platform launched today, I'm on it, honestly. So it's at the Aspie World, ASPIE World, the Aspie World. And I am currently I'm making content daily on autism, Asperger's, and a daily life now, like daily life living with it, because I realized that my life has some value in it that maybe people would want to see, how I go to the store or whatever, or how I, go to town and drop stuff at the post office, and why I get triggered by blah, blah, blah. So I'm always up to that kind of stuff. And I'm also, I'm really getting into photography right now. So like, I don't know if you've been following my Instagram, but I've been, I made a bet with myself. I said, like, right, January, my New Year's resolution, I've got to get my head around making really good photos for Instagram. Okay, be it that I'm quite busy, so a lot of the stuff that goes on there isn't as up to scratch as I want it to be, but I downloaded Lightroom. I pay for like the audio, the cloud, the cloud thing they've got. I can't remember what it's called, like the Adobe Cloud. And I taught myself to edit photos like a beast. And so yeah, if you're interested in seeing how I get on with that, definitely check out my Instagram.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you so much for your time. And if you are interested, make sure to check out the Aspie World on YouTube, because really in terms of content on this topic, there is no competition. So I highly recommend it. It'll be linked in the content below. And with that, we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching today's podcast. If you found it to be interesting, consider hitting that subscribe button. Hit that like button. I want to see, do you guys find this valuable? Was it interesting? What questions would you like to hear on the next episode? As I meet with more and more people, I want to refine that question set to either their experiences or what would you find helpful. So I would love to connect with you in the comments below. And with that, stay tuned for our next episode.